So now, in the first video where I gave the overview, I left out some detail that was a bit tangential to the property issues in some sense, but it still deals with the overall subject. And the overall subject here is Stafford County fraud. The county is the government. So I'm going to talk for just a second about the district courts and a particular set of events took place. So my wife worked as a postdoc fellow out of UVA, and her Indian boss engaged in grant fraud. She was hired to do epilepsy research on sodium channels and ended up for a while doing calcium channels, for a while being loaned out to a guy named Bertram who helped Manoj Patel get his grant, which was a $1.3 million four-year grant from NIH. So he put her over there to pay back that assistance, that help, and then she came back and was doing calcium channels briefly, and then started doing work on a Pfizer grant for $169,000, which was spinal cord and pain. My wife's contract says brain slices. It wasn't anything to do with this, and that Pfizer contract was signed by the Board of Visitors. So Patel shouted at my wife and made her hair fall out and told her she was a pair of hands. I mean, this is a woman who has a patent for ballistic brain injury research over at Walter Reed, who worked at NIH, worked at MCV, came out of the Philippines and got her PhD in Japan on a scholarship, a full ride on the Momba show over there. So she filed a complaint with UVA, and UVA and Bill Howell and all the state agencies are denying any culpability, including the Unemployment Commission, even though the Unemployment Commission said, we agree that there was discrimination based on nationality, and we agree that there was a grant fraud. And so they fired her, in retaliation and everything. They're trying to cover that up, and that's another. And Richmond Times-Dispatch and Bryce Anderson, they're all in that mess together. Well, while that's taking place over here. So my wife worked 2012, 2013. 2013 is when they fired her. So in 2014, by January 31st, we were supposed to have her W-2 forms. We didn't get them, so emails were sent to HR in Charlottesville, and they didn't send them out in time for taxes. So in July, I called up the president's office twice, and I said, what's going on here? And they tried to put me over with the Charlottesville police. That's how vicious Teresa Sullivan is. So then, September 22nd, 2014, I sued UVA because my wife and I filed our taxes together, and I had lost a job, so I had wanted to file the taxes because when I lost my job, I got assaulted over at Smithsonian, and I wanted to go to the free clinic in Mary Washington. Well, with my wife and I filing taxes together in 2014, in the very beginning of January, and I got fired right there in the early part. We needed the W-2s, and so when I sued later in the year, in the 22nd, I put in $500 of damages because they told me at the Fredericksburg Hospital there, Mary Washington, they said, it's $500 just to walk through the emergency room with no treatment. So I sued for damages. So I go to court, and before we get to the trial, I want a summary judgment. So September 22nd, I'm standing before Judge Strickland there, and I said, here's the federal law right here. There's nothing you can do about it. You owe me the tax forms. There's no discussion, no negotiation on this thing. I want them. He would not force the state of Virginia, UVA and the state of Virginia, and Aaron McNeil, who is their attorney from Richmond, Virginia, to give me the tax forms, to give me the W-2 so I could file my federal taxes. So I go in and, what am I saying? After that's over, I'm out in the lobby, and here comes Aaron McNeil, and I said, why exactly are you holding my wife's W-2 forms hostage? And she said to me, maybe we can make a deal. And I was like, make a deal on a federal law that the state follows to the letter in parallel? And I said, what do you mean? You mean if I drop the $500 damages, you're going to give me the W-2s of my wife? Yeah. She tried to extort me outside of the courtroom for my wife's W-2 forms. And it's all because the judge wouldn't enforce the law. Topping that off, on that same case, I'd actually combined two cases together that were somewhat unrelated. The state of Virginia had given me a refund. I think it was somewhere around 2009 maybe or something, or 10, I don't remember right off my hand. But they gave me a refund for about $700, and then they turned around and sent me a bill for it. And I said, I haven't cashed the refund checks, the money is in your account, get off my neck. 4 years of this crap, back and forth, back and forth. And there's a guy named Sherman Chung who works in the Richmond office of the Virginia Tax Department, as I speak right now. I had spoken with him and spoken with somebody else about this matter, and they just wouldn't relent. So, September 22nd, we have this hearing. This is a preliminary hearing for half of this lawsuit, and then a separate point on the lawsuit because it revolved around taxes. I happen to combine them together. Then now, December 29th of 2014, we go to trial. And I said, where's Sherman Chung? And nobody knows. The court doesn't know. And so I have had, since then, to go to the police, to the clerk's office, to the circuit court clerk's office, and ask what happened to the subpoena that I sent way prior to that. I paid my $12. Why didn't he appear in court? And nobody will answer. Oh, put in a written request and we'll answer you. So, if you're looking for any kind of honest dealings in that court, don't count on them, because it's not going to happen. And topping that off, when I wrote a letter to the Virginia Bar, they had the audacity to say that Aaron McNeil not giving me my tax forms, or my wife's tax forms I should say, was merely a tactic. That it's okay for lawyers to do that. The Virginia Bar has no ethics whatsoever. People can lie, people can break the law, they can extort, they can engage in fraud. It doesn't matter to them. The Virginia Bar is meaningless. They are nothing but a bunch of crooks who are covering up for a bunch of other crooks throughout this state right here. This is why you see people like Jerry Falwell Jr. going off and endorsing Trump, coming out of UVA. It's all the same stuff. Or Cheryl Mills. Cheryl Mills, Hillary's lawyer, is from UVA. And Cheryl Mills' lawyer, who is David Gregory's wife, UVA graduate. All of them. Ken Cuccinelli, UVA graduate. Bob McDonald's children went to UVA. Bill Howe, graduate of UVA. We'll come back to some of those in a bit. And some of those I've covered in other videos for other issues. So that's just a foretaste. That covers a couple of basic points on the crookedness of the courts. And I'll come to some more stuff in a minute.